So this question is for you, Sheikh. What would you like to be your legacy to be? Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah amma ba'd. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome back to the Beyond the Minbar podcast. I am your host, Muhammad Basa'id, and today I am blessed to be joined with none other than our Imam, our Shaykh Abu Usamah At-Thahabi. Shaykh, how are you doing?
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, alladhi bi ni'matihi tatimmu salihat. And if the truth were to be told, Muhammad, I'm blessed. I'm blessed to be graced with your presence. May Allah accept it from you and the brothers here at GLM.
Ameen, ameen, barakallah fiqh. It's a blessing to have you, and you know, we've been trying to get this podcast thing going with me and you. We've run into some technical difficulties in the past, but inshallah, this time we're all set, and we have a good topic for you, bismillah ta'ala.
Inshallah, that last situation that we had, the episode, I was super impressed with the way you handled it, the way you managed it. And this is the thing. Things go on behind the scenes that people have no idea. So for all of those unsung heroes, those brothers and sisters who are doing things behind the scenes, we ask Allah Azza wa Jalla to bless you, inshallah, all of you, brothers and sisters.
Ameen.
The behind the scene dawah figures.
MashaAllah, ameen. So Sheikh, as of recently, you know, we've had a lot of people pass away, you know, and you spoke about a few people in your last lecture, you know, the one you do on a Sunday night here at GLM, and it got me thinking about the people who passed away, one, and how they're going to be remembered. And that's why for this podcast I chose to talk about death itself, and also most importantly as well is leaving behind a legacy. So I was talking to you just before we started about people passing away, and we're attending the janazah. You know, we're at the qabr, we're at the actual graveyard, and people smiling, talking about business, talking about dunya. You know, how come it doesn't affect us anymore?
I think it has a lot of factors and variables connected to that. At the top of the list, just being far away from the huda of Rasulillahi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as it relates to how to deal with the issue of death. He used to command us, encourage us to remember death, because it will kill that enjoyment that people have of the dunya, where they forget the reality of why we've been created. I remember living in Liverpool. We used to have a lot of janazas. I think every year we were doing something like 20, 24 janazas every single year, 2 janazas per month. And going to the maqbara used to be quite disturbing, because at the maqbara, as you said, people were carrying on in a way that was really inappropriate, far away from the sunnah of the Prophet. Although that is the case, Allah mentioned it in the Quran. He said, "Alhaakumut takathur hatta zurtum al-maqabir." The mutual gathering up of money and wealth and prestige, it has made you people negligent until death comes to you, until you visit the grave, and then you'll realize the reality of gathering all of that. But another way to understand that ayat is mutual gathering up of wealth and money and prestige. It has busied you, even to the point when you go to the grave, you're still busy, even at the grave, because people are getting on their phones, checking what was the latest score, who scored, asking people, you know, what was the lottery ticket that came out, and so forth and so on, having discussions that are counterproductive at the grave. So it's just, you know, the nature of this time that we're living, the years of deceit, where everything is topsy-turvy.
SubhanAllah. And even, you know, even if you have that, it hits you, let's say at the moment, or you're at the maqbara, it leaves you straight after. You know, your life kind of goes on, and you completely forget. You know, you completely forget about death, about the grave, and accountability and everything. You know,
and that's another thing where the Prophet told the people, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, don't wait till people die. He said, go to the grave, فَإِنَّهَا تُذَكِّرُكُمْ بِالْآخِرَةِ, because the graveyard and those graves, they will remind you of the hereafter. So when you go there and you really are taking your time out, considering and contemplating what's going on, it should affect you. Our issue comes a lot, Muhammad, in that when we get around people, it's like the month of Ramadan, you wake up, you're ready to fast. But as soon as you start meeting the people in the office and the people you hang out with, that's when you start laughing, making riba, nemima, joking around. But at the same time, we shouldn't go overboard as well. Shouldn't go totally, absolutely overboard and believe in, we always have to walk around with a chip on our shoulder looking as if we're about to die. The Prophet told his companions who said, Ya Rasulullah, when we're with you in your presence, it raises our iman. And then when we go home into the marketplace, when we mix with our family, our children, and our friends, then our iman goes down. He said, this is how faith is. It goes up. It goes up. It fluctuates. He said, if you can maintain the same level of iman that you have when you're with me, you'll be able to shake hands with the malaika. He said, but alhamdulillah, that's how iman is. A sa'a. It's up and it's down. So there are times when we're going to really be plugged in about the issue of death and its reality. And then there are other times when we're going to play around. We just have to establish the healthy Islamic medium.
Yeah. And so how do we go about changing that then? Because we want to strike a balance, inshallah ta'ala, but we want it to be that when we at the graveyard or a death is announced or we're about to pray Salatul Janazah, that we want to be present, not just physically, but spiritually, right?
Of course. I think part of that is just to realize fi qulubihim maradun fazadahum Allahu marada. Some people have diseases in their hearts, and Allah has increased their disease with more sicknesses. So we have to work on, correcting that heart. And the ways that the religion showed us, you have to correct your heart and do the tazkiyah of your nafs, like having the proper tawheed of Allah Azza wa Jal, and knowing the names and attributes of Allah, and having a heart that's cognizant and aware of that reality. In addition to that, asking Allah Azza wa Jal for that heart that has khashya. Asking Allah Azza wa Jal for a heart that, can allow you to distinguish between right and wrong and so forth and so on. And there are other things that the Prophet told us, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If a person suffers from a heart that is qasi, a heart that is hard, doesn't cry, it doesn't reflect, it doesn't contemplate. He said, anybody who has that, then let him touch the head of an orphan. There's a child who doesn't have a father and he's a minor, then touch his head. Rasulullah said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that will cause your heart to, become soft. Back up and slow down. If you're a person who likes to always have, heavy dosages of Dave Chappelle, you want to watch, comedians all the time. The Prophet says, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, inna kathratul dahik tamitul qulub. Lying and laughing will cause your heart to die. So there are a lot of things that we can do to make the heart alive, and there are a lot of things that can be done that will kill the heart as well. I say we ask Allah Azza wa Jal here and now to give us those qulub, akhi, like the Prophet described, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Lo annakum tawakkaltum ala Allahi haqqa tawakkulihi larazaqakum kama yarzuqu at-tayr. If you people relied on Allah the way, the real true reliance at tawakkul, Allah will provide for you the way He provides for the birds. The bird goes out early in the morning with an empty stomach, comes back when he comes back to his nest and his stomach is full. One of the interpretations of the bird is that the bird has a soft and a light heart. His heart is khafif, easy to cry. Just by that point, I'm a jealous man. I don't want my wife mentioning other brothers' names, even if it's a da'i. I don't, I'm sensitive like that. The other day when my brother Ismail Beaumont, rahmatullahi alayhi, when he died, I had informed my wife and I said, man, Ismail Beaumont died. And she burst out. She burst out and started crying. Like literally burst out, made a sound and started like, oh no. And she started crying. Now, I know it was just the khafif, the heart that she has that's like that.
Yeah.
May Allah Ta'ala bless and accept it for. The shahid and the point of the kalam is there are those people who are like that. And then there are those people, their hearts are hard. The mother could die, grandmother could die, the baby could die, and that heart doesn't move an inch. It's just like business as usual. And these are the people we don't want to have those kinds of hearts.
SubhanAllah al-Azim. You mentioned Ustad Ismail and, you know, rahmatullah alayhi. That's also another thing I kind of maybe want to talk about this because of what he left behind and the amount of people that spoke amazing about him and beautiful words from the brothers and those that he touched, you know. So it got me thinking about the importance of leaving a legacy on earth, you know. And I want to talk about that. I want to talk about why should Muslims want to leave behind a legacy, or should they want to leave behind a legacy even?
Yeah, leaving a legacy behind is part and parcel what it is to be a Muslim. You want to leave your print behind, and leaving your print behind doesn't necessarily mean you're very popular and you're in front of everybody's eyes. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wa ala alihi wasallam, he said, "Inna Allaha yuhibbu taqi al-ghani al-khafi." Allah loves the slave al-abd at-taqi al-ghani al-khafi. Allah loves the slave who has taqwa, and the one who is satisfied with what he has, and the one who is khafi. He's under the radar. He doesn't have to be seen. So leaving a legacy doesn't mean he has to be like some of these famous people. It's just that when people think about him or her, they remember the deeds that they put forward. Another thing is a person can leave a positive legacy or a negative legacy. So Hitler, Mussolini, Stalin, oppressors like that, some of the leaders of the world today, these people are leaving behind a terrible legacy because of the fitna and the fasad and the murder and things that they're guilty of. So leaving a legacy should be something that's part of what a Muslim strives to do. But he has to understand, what is the legacy? Does it have to be something very big? The Prophet told us, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the best deed that is done is the deed that you do with consistency, even if it's a little bit. So for an example, we are reverts. Ismail Beaumont is a revert, rahmatullah alayhi. His legacy can be, in addition to the institute that he started and the teachings that he was doing, his legacy could be he's the first Muslim in his family. He's the first Muslim who graduated from a university, which was Al-Medina, from his family. He now has children who are now growing up in Al-Islam, who have cousins, Ismail's relatives, for an example, who are not Muslim. So his daughters are part of the legacy that his daughters get married off and his sons get married off. So a legacy can be all of that. You're the first Muslim in your family. So now that legacy of generation after generation after generation, you started that. Your legacy could be, yeah, I'm not only a Muslim, but I'm trying to leave the legacy of the sunnah and purity in my Islam. Some of the brothers and sisters, we always trying to tell them, don't be satisfied with being a bum and being a person who doesn't produce. You can be the first Muslim in your family that went to the university and got a bachelor's degree and then a master's and then a PhD, for an example. Yeah. So from where I come from, many of my friends, we didn't go to university, right? That's just the nature of how our environment was and is. But Allah blessed me, and I went to the university, and I got a degree. So out of my mom's 4 kids, my father's 4 kids, I'm the first one to get a college degree, a university degree, for an example. Yeah. So a legacy can be all of that, all of that. Allah asked the question in the Quran, Afwan akhi Muhammad. No. He asked the question in the Quran, Am kuntum shuhada idh hadara Ya'qub al-maut. Were you people present, witnesses, when death came to Ya'qub and he said to his children, Ma ta'buduna min ba'di. What are you going to worship after me? They said, we're going to worship your God, your ilah, and the ilah of your father, Ibrahim, Ismail. We're going to worship. His legacy is, I'm going to make sure when I die, when I check out, my kids know what they're worshiping. They know what they are worshiping. There's a certain behavioral conduct that's accepted from you guys, and there's one that's not accepted. So that's our legacy. How many times the companions would say things like, whoever wants to read or know about the legacy of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and what he brought, then they would read a particular ayah. قل تعالوا أتلو عليكم تعالوا أقرأ ما حرم ربكم عليكم. Come, I'll read to you what your Lord has made haram for you. He made that you don't make shirk with Allah, and you worship Allah, you don't kill your children, you don't kill a soul that doesn't deserve to be killed. And they said that was his legacy. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the legacy, it can mean a lot of things, but the point is, we try to leave something behind where people are going to benefit or they're going to say good to us. There's a verse of the Quran, multiple verses, the dua of the believers. The believers say to Allah, وَاجْعَلْ لِي لِسَانَ الصِّدْقِ فِي الْآخِرِينَ. Oh Allah, make me on the lisan sidq for those who come later. The people come in the latter times, let them remember me with what is good. Let them recall me with what is good. Another dua where the Muslims make dua, وَهَبْ لَنَا ذُرِّيَّةً أَزْوَاجٍ وَذُرِّيَّةً. Give us wives and gives us children. وَاجْعَلْنَا لِلْمُتَّقِينَ إِمَامًا. And make us imams for the people of at-taqwa. So that goes to show that a Muslim should try to be a person who his goal and objective is to worship Allah Azza wa Jal, but he wants people to speak positive about him, positively, and say, oh, that's the son of Muhammad. That's the son of so-and-so. And because it's part of what you left behind. Yes.
Jazakallah khair, Shaykh. And you know what, you mentioned something really, really important, because in this time of social media and wanting to be, you know, noticed and wanting people to pay attention to you, sometimes when you're thinking about legacies, leaving something behind, you leave Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala out of that equation and you go directly to the people and what people might think of you. So what you mentioned is really important, and it brings me to remember another brother who passed away, and his brother Sudais, you know, and I was reflecting over him passing away, you know, rahmatullah alayhi. He's 18 years old, you know, in the midst of youth and youth being part of social media or wanting to be noticed and stuff like that. But he wasn't like that, you know. When I remember him, you know, he wasn't that kind of person. He always used to attend your classes, you know, and like he never wanted to be in front of the camera, if that makes sense, you know. And that I always got took back by that when I think about him, you know. So that is another aspect of leaving up behind a legacy. Like you mentioned, it may not be known to everyone, but those who do know you, they know you in a positive way.
Yes, that kid, Sudais, had beautiful akhlaq, and Allah is his hasib. Every time I saw him, he was highly respectful, clean. He just had a nice style about himself. And then just to, you know, come to hear that he had died the way he died, it's just the maut al-faj'ah. It's that sudden death. Ismail Beaumont, last time I saw him, he was pushing his dad at Safa and Marwa. Yeah. My Shaykh Ali al-Halabi, I went to visit him. I didn't know that that would be the last time that I would see the Shaykh. If I knew that was the last time, I'd have spent more quality time with him. And for that reason, when he checked out in particular, although it's been a while, and it was from that COVID, rahmatullah alayhi, but that hit me, and I was saying to myself, every time I leave my house, I'm going to kiss my wife. I'm going to hug my wife. I'm going to kiss my kid. I'm not going to take it for granted that I'm going to go and I'm going to come back. I want to kiss them to let them know, look, if I do check out, I have love for you. And I don't want to take it for granted. So with the young brother, subhanallah, at Green Lane Masjid, prior to that, as you know, a few weeks ago, they did that theme of take advantage of 5 before 5. Yeah. And one of them was take advantage of your youth before your old age. Take advantage of your life before you die. These classes and these hadith are not just cool, slick, hip phrases that are used to pass time. Just give a class 45 minutes and we hang out. No, this stuff is serious. Shuraim, here today, gone tomorrow. And that's all of us, here today and gone tomorrow. So now that we look back at the brother, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam heard his companions talking about a dead person, and he said that it's obligatory. And then they talked about another one. He said it's obligatory. They said, well, what's obligatory, Ya Rasulullah? He said, well, the first person you people spoke good about him, so it's wajib for him to go to Jannah. The second person you guys spoke negatively about him, so it's wajib for him to go to hellfire, because you are Allah's witnesses on the earth. And he read that ayah, Antum shuhada Allah fil ard. The ummah of Islam are Allah's witnesses. Who's in the middle? Who's extreme as it relates to other groups and things like that? So when we speak good and favorably about people, inshallah, it's one of the signs of a good khatima. So everybody has positive things to say for the brother. And we say Allah is his hasib, and Allah knows best the people's secrets. But for what we can see, the brother was really a good kid. Never loud, never out of position, always being respectful, respectable. And we have nothing to say but good about him and his father.
Jazakallah khair. Now we're talking about, obviously, we mentioned two people, and the legacies are kind of like, one is more known and another person, is just known to the community. How do we now, take in consideration everything that we talked about, how do we motivate ourselves, because we can sit here and watch this podcast. I mean, you're talking about people pass away, and this is they're not the first people to pass away that were known amongst the community or were popular. Brother Ali Bennett from MATW, who passed away with cancer, and he did the whole he had his organization. Was an organization that he created.
Rahmatullah
alayhi. So for us, how do we get motivated? Because we'll watch it, and then same thing again, Sheikh. Subhanallah, going back to death, and then seeing something, and then seeing someone else pass away and wanting to get motivated. How do we get motivated, number one, and how do we stay motivated to want to leave behind a legacy?
What comes to my mind is the instruction of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who said that every single action has its time of activity and being excited, and everything has its time of being lethargic and not so excited. He said, whoever's lack of energy and that lethargic time when it hits him, if it's according to my sunnah, he'll be guided aright. But when he is not lethargic, when he is lethargic and he's not really active and he's not focused, but then he throws in the towel and he just totally gives himself to what's haram. He just says, all right, man, let me just have a party. I'm going to go to Mardi Gras. That's in Louisiana, where they put masks on and you're allowed for 48 hours just to let it all hang loose, get drunk, get high. And they believe you can do all the evil. It's kind of like similar to Halloween. They will put those masks on and say, we could do whatever we want to do for 48 hours. So a person just says, let me just go off, let it all hang out, and then I come back in October. The Prophet said, no, anybody who's feeling weak and lethargic, he's not focused, then at that time, that feeling and that mode still has to be in accordance to my sunnah. So when we are suffering from low iman, weak iman, I think one of the things that if we want to get things done is just, there's no better time to do it than right now. It's as simple as that. Like if we continue to procrastinate, we all will wait until the last minute to get it done. And there are some people, I just bless them that they just roll up their skis and they get it done right now. Yeah. But then most of the people like me, and maybe you, I don't know, but you just wait till the last minute. I'm going to get it done. I'm going to get it done. So there's no time to get something done like right now. So a person does what the Prophet said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said, when Yawmul Qiyamah comes, if one of you has a fasila, a seed, something that can be planted, if you have it in your hand, and Yawmul Qiyamah starts, he said, hurry up and plant it. It's Yawmul Qiyamah. No one's going to eat from this seed. It's Yawmul Qiyamah. No bird, no one's going to benefit from it. But it's your niyat, the need of being functional, the need of being a person who's progressive. Someone's going to create something. Part of the legacy I would like to encourage the brothers and sisters to start thinking about, especially our brothers, is a legacy of creating for ourselves generational wealth. Young brothers coming together with their brothers, their ashiqa, their blood brothers, starting your own business. Do your father's business. Create for yourself generational wealth. Part of what we have to do is create for ourselves an Islamic school type environment that is on par, even better than what the non-Muslims are offering. That's part of the legacy. You know, some of the older Asian people, the first generation Pakistanis who came to this country, a lot of them were on that religion of, you know, it was their taqalid, their culture.
Yeah.
It wasn't always correct. It's not that religion that I want to be on, you know. But part of what they did was they built these institutions. They purchased Green Lane and all of these other properties. So that's part of the legacy of Islam, that people have to, every generation, every person who comes, he has to make it his business to say, I have to get in where I fit in and be part of the solution, not part of the problem. How do I extend and how do I grow the legacy? So in answering that, I say, by not waiting for later on until later on to do it. There's no better time to do something than right now. Plant the seed right now. Right now.
And you know, it does come back to, again, like, how you going to do it right now? By recognizing that we could die tomorrow, you know, and be affected by the people who are passing away, the janazah, really reflecting, doing that tadabbur. And, you know, you mentioned something really, really important as well, Sheikh, about, you know, leaving behind a legacy, which leads to my next question. You don't always have to be the person leading. You know, you could be part of a legacy. You know, it could be part of someone else's legacy. You know, and like you said in the beginning, we were talking about those brothers and sisters who are, you know, quote unquote, behind the da'wah. You don't see them. You don't know what they do, you know, but whatever legacy is left behind, they were a part of that.
The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the Imam, and he's the leader. And he left the ultimate legacy of 1 billion people coming on his deen and following his deen and follow him. And he's the focal point as it relates to the example. So he's leading. But you don't have to necessarily be that person, the point man. Look at Bilal ibn Rabah. Bilal left a legacy. And his legacy is he's the mu'adhin. So the adhan is kind of synonymous with Bilal. But not only that, the Prophet said to Bilal sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Ya Bilal, I saw your footprints, your footsteps preceding me in Jannah. What is it that you do that caused that? He said, I don't know, Ya Rasulullah, except I never wake up in the middle of the night except that I make wudu and then I make 2 rakats. He said, that's what it is. So that became and is the sunnah now. If you wake up, you make wudu and make 2 rakats. That's the legacy of Bilal. That's part of his legacy. He's not the leader. He wasn't even sure what it is. This is what he thought made his own. So now part of your legacy is you always put hot water in the bathroom for Fajr for your mom or your dad or your husband. That's part of the legacy. He will always remember you for that warm water that you prepare for their wudu or whatever, for an example. Another person's legacy is, you know, like Bilal. I always make wudu. All right, well, I never took a shower except that I made ghusl and wudu in that shower, even if it wasn't for janaba. But this is just the point. I always had wudu, whatever your legacy is going to be. So what we can't afford to happen is for us to think a legacy has to be something really big and you have to be really popular and half of the population knows your name is no. Your legacy can just be something that starts off with your family that they remember later on. You know what? I remember this about my dad or my granddad or my mom. My dad used to always kiss my mother and he was affectionate, as opposed to the man who leaves a legacy with his children that is rough and tough and being nasty. So the legacy can just not cursing around your kids. My dad left a legacy. My mother and my dad, they were sticklers for courtesy, for adab. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. Thank you very much. I appreciate you. Inshallah. As opposed, give me that. Give me this. So your legacy is just going and shooting for what is not the norm. As the Prophet said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Allah loves it when you engage yourself with the ma'ali al-amur, with those high affairs, like leave a legacy for yourself.
Jazakallah khair. You know, I've always said to myself, inshallah ta'ala, that when we do a podcast, right, I want to do a podcast on your life, right, and a personal one, you know, because we always get you here and we're always talking about matters, you know, because I think, inshallah ta'ala, there is a lot of things to learn through people's journeys and people's lives, you know, taking life lessons from people, especially people who are older than you, you know. So inshallah ta'ala, so part of my question is related to more you, inshallah ta'ala. So this question is for you, Sheikh. What would you like to be your legacy to be?
Well, I would like to check out and not leave my dependence reliant upon other people. One of the great companions, Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, one of the 10 people promised Jannah, he said, Ya Rasulullah, I have a lot of money and I only have one daughter to inherit from me. So should I leave all of my wealth in sadaqah? He said, no. How about half of it? He said, no. He said, what about a third? He said, yes, and that's a lot. Leaving a third for sadaqah is a lot. And then he told him, لِأَن تَتْرُكْ وَرَثَتَكَ أَغْنِيَاءَ خَيْرٌ مِنْ أَن تَتْرُكُهُمْ عَالَةً يَتَكَفَّفُونَ النَّاسِ. To leave your children, those who inherit from you, your heirs, to leave them where they have money is better than leaving them where they got to go around and ask people for money. So I wouldn't want my children growing up with this idea that's beyond the dole. Let's just take the dole. This is a crippling thing in this country with the Muslims. This thing where we're eating this dole, and that's part of our legacy, being lazy, not working, and things like that. So that's one aspect. The other aspect, and a lot could be said, is I want to be remembered as a person who was upon the sunnah, and I didn't give a rat's ear, literally. I didn't give a rat's ear about someone who made takfir of me and said, nah, you a kafir, because he is given to making takfir. I wouldn't waste a moment of my time that he thinks I'm a kafir. And just as I don't care about that, the one who says I'm a deviant, I wouldn't waste, I don't give a rat's tail of what he's saying. I would want my legacy to speak for itself. And that is, I was a person who's not perfect, but I embrace the way of the Salaf theoretically as being the correct way. Establishing for Allah what he established for himself in the way of his names and his attributes, and trying to follow those companions, because that's the religion. That's what I would like to be remembered for. Will bite my tongue for no one, say what I said, and meant what I said. That's what I would hope, inshallah.
May Allah make it so.
Ameen.
Final advice, inshallah, and we can wrap up, inshallah. Alhamdulillah, we could sit here for hours, you know.
Yeah.
But tafadhal, Sheikh.
My final advice is that I encourage our community not to be tone deaf. One of the brothers who has died is brother Muhammad Sharif from Al-Maghrib Institute. He checked out, and I still see it the other day when I received the message. Wow, I said, another one. And some people were very negative towards the brother when he died. And they made dua against him, and their hearts were really hard against him. And I'm like, these people are tone deaf. This man has went to meet his Lord. And what we should do is make dua to Allah to have mercy upon him, and to forgive him and to forgive us. And how would we feel if we were in that position? So it's not to minimize any mistakes or anything people do that we don't agree with. But right now, we have a lot of tahaddiyat. We have a lot of challenges facing our community.
Yeah.
So you see a lot of the brothers are refuting each other from all of these groups. Salafi, Deobandis, Brahwis, Ikhwan, all of these Muslims are. So then you have comments, 500, 600, 1,000 comments. So whoever the speaker is, his fan boys are going to support him. That's great talk, great talk. Yeah, but 500 comments, but at the local masjid, we only get 8, 9, 10 people in the first row. We only get 15, 20 people in the first row. Why all of those comments, but not many shabab on the first row? So I think that our community, especially the du'at and the shuyukh, we have to start focusing on what's going to benefit our ummah. So my closing advice is for people to focus more on these bigger issues, like leaving a legacy for your kids. Getting up for Fajr on time, praying in the masjid as much as you possibly can, holding on to the mubani of al-Islam as husbands and wives and so forth and so on. And just getting focused. As it relates to our shabab, I know that this time is a tough time for you shabab, but you have that Quran and the sunnah, and they are the perfect things to help you to navigate through this dunya. So leave a legacy that you're a person who, you're a Muslim and you're following the way of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and you'll extend that long history that your parents gifted you with, inshallah. May Allah make it easy for us and easy for all you brothers and sisters.
Allahumma ameen. Jazakallah khair, Shaykh. It's been absolutely amazing, alhamdulillah, to sit, to able to talk about this, especially talking about it with you, you know, alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. I thank Allah first and foremost for allowing us to be here, and I pray that people listen and benefit, inshallah ta'ala, whoever or wherever they may be. Inshallah, with that we'll end binna ta'ala. I've been Muhammad Ba Saeed here at Beyond the Mimbar with Shaykh Abu Usamah At-Thahabi. Remember to like, subscribe, comment, inshallah ta'ala, and we'll be back next time with another episode. Bidillah ta'ala. Subhanakallahumma bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam.